Traoré's wife asks for divorce. What he did next will shock you. Rain streaks the windows of a Brussels courtroom. The air is thick with the quiet tension of legal formalities, till a clerk files a document marked confidential. Divorce, petition, routine in form, but explosive in content. Within hours, it leaks. Not through hacking, not through espionage, but through a single screenshot, shared by an anonymous source on a regional news forum. By morning, it's everywhere, and buried deep inside its pages. One line cuts like a blade. I can no longer live under the weight of lies that have shaped my life. That sentence. It's just 6 words. But they echo across continents, across West Africa. People stop scrolling. In European embassies, diplomats pause mid-meeting. In Dakar, Ouagadougou, and Bamako, phones light up with messages, whispers, speculation. What did she know? What did he do? And who else was involved? No press release. No denial, no rebuttal, just silence. The presidential compound in Dakar remains locked down. Gates are closed. Staff move behind drawn curtains. No officials speak publicly. No social media updates. It's not just silence, it's absence. Outside, journalists circle like vultures. Inside, aides argue in hushed tones over whether to issue a statement or let the storm pass. But storms don't pass when the wind is already howling. In Lagos, Nairobi, Cape Town, hashtags begin trending. In Paris, London, Washington, intelligence briefings are rewritten overnight. The world is watching, and still. Nothing comes from the palace. Diplomats scramble. EU envoys hold emergency calls. US senators request classified briefings. African Union officials meet behind closed doors. Journalists dissect every clause of the petition, like archaeologists uncovering a lost civilization. One phrase dominates headlines: hidden assets, covert agreements, state surveillance, the documents, reference offshore accounts, encrypted communications, and secret meetings with unnamed foreign advisors. Some names are redacted. Others aren't. Speculation turns to certainty. Certainty becomes outrage. A scandal meant for private courts has become a matter of international concern. This isn't about love anymore. It's about power. Smoke rises above city squares. Young voices chant into the night. Banners read, "No more lies," and "Africa first." Police lines form, tear gas flies, social media explodes. In Abidjan, students march toward parliament. In Accra, activists live-stream their demands. In Katana, youth groups burn effigies. Of foreign diplomats, there is anger but also purpose. They're not protesting just Traoré. They're protesting decades of broken promises, puppet governments, and unseen hands pulling strings from afar. And at the heart of it all, a woman's words. A simple declaration that cracked open a continent. Inside the war room, panic simmers. Beneath polished veneer, ministers debate strategy. One faction urges immediate damage control, launch an investigation, fire a few scapegoats, contain the fallout. Another warns that any response will only feed the fire. One advisor speaks quietly, but firmly. If we say nothing, we lose credibility. If we lie, we lose everything. A third option is proposed. Leak something bigger. Redirect the story. Let someone else take the fall. But before they decide, the president disappears. No phone calls, no appearances. There is only silence. Then, without warning, the signal breaks. A broadcast begins. The screen flickers. No flags, no podium. Just a dimly lit room and a man alone. His voice cracks as he speaks. I did not come to power to serve them. I came to lead us. But every step forward has been blocked. Every policy watered down. Every ally removed. A pauses. Looks directly into the camera. She was right to leave. Because the truth is I allowed myself to be compromised. I thought I could change the system from within. I was wrong. Speech ends abruptly. Silence returns. But this time, it doesn't last. Because now, the world has heard him, and nothing will ever be the same again. A university lecture hall. The hum of fans. A young man in a crisp white shirt stands at the front, writing on the chalkboard. Democracy is not just elections, he says. It is accountability. That man once a political science professor becomes a movement. His speeches go viral. Students chant his name. Journalists call him the voice of a new Africa. He runs for office, not with money, not with guns, but with promises, and against all odds he wins. His election sparks celebration across West Africa. For once, it seems, a leader has risen not from the old guard, but from the people. But power changes everything, even hope. Wedding footage flickers on screen. A grand affair, dignitaries in silk robes. A crowd roaring as two figures walk down the Alamadu. Traoré and Mariam Diallo. She is elegant, brilliant, a human rights lawyer, daughter of a respected Malian diplomat. Their union is hailed as modern, progressive, a symbol of unity between nations. But behind closed doors, the marriage is more transactional than romantic. She brings legitimacy. He gains access to diplomatic circles once out of reach. Together, they become Africa's first couple of reform, until the cracks appear. A press conference. Cameras flash. Traoré shakes hands with a European envoy. They smile. The world sees. Partnership, but in leaked memos and intercepted emails. Another story unfolds. Advisors arrive under vague titles, strategic consultants, economic liaisons. Their offices are in the presidential palace. Their meetings are unlisted, their influence undeniable. One document reads, "Ensure policy alignment remains consistent with shared interests." Translation: do what we say or face consequences. They don't carry weapons. They wield trade agreements, aid packages, and quiet threats. And for a time, trade plays along, because survival in politics often means compromise. Negotiation room, tense silence. Contract lies on the table. The EU investment treaty would bind Traoré's country to foreign corporations, granting them control over natural resources and infrastructure. Western diplomats lean forward. "Sign it," one says, "or your economy will collapse without our support." Traoré looks around the room, and slowly, deliberately, he pushes the pen away. "We've been signing these for too long. It's time we write our own future." That moment marks a turning point, not just for his presidency, but for his fate. Because now, the game has changed, and the players no longer trust the referee. Mariam Diallo stops appearing at public events at first. It's subtle, missed ribbon cutting, a last-minute cancellation. Then weeks pass. No interviews, no appearances. Inside the administration, whispers grow louder. Is she ill? Disillusioned? Being silenced? Then come the rumors. She's met with unnamed officials in Brussels. She's been seen speaking privately with international journalists. She's preparing something dangerous. Her absence becomes a presence. A question mark in every conversation. A storm waiting to break. A digital archive appears online, encrypted, untraceable. Within hours, it spreads like wildfire. Documents reveal surveillance programs targeting journalists, activists, and opposition leaders, secret negotiations with foreign governments, backdoor deals that bypass parliament, among them a Mariam's divorce petition, buried inside its legal language, classified intelligence reports, names redacted, meetings logged, evidence of covert operations masked as diplomacy. This was never just about love, it was about truth. And now the world knows, because she made sure of it. Smoke curls from ashtrays in higher-rise conference rooms. The air is thick with urgency. EU envoys gather behind closed doors in Brussels. Phones buzz, constantly Paris, Berlin, London, all asking the same question. Do we contain this? Or let it burn? A senior diplomat leans forward. This isn't just a scandal. It's a precedent. If he walks away unscathed, others will follow. Across the Atlantic, Washington watches closely. State Department memo circulates internally. We cannot afford to lose influence in the region. Not now. Not after everything. Addis Ababa, African Union officials meet in secret. left some leaders express concern. Others see opportunity. One speaks quietly but firmly. Let them squabble. Africa has survived worse. This may be our moment. The world is no longer watching. It's choosing sides. Back in Dakar, tension pulses through the corridors of power. Traoré's inner circle gathers in a dimly lit chamber beneath the presidential palace. Maps and reports cover the walls. Phones ring off the hook. One advisor slams a folder on the table. We need a statement. Now, before someone else writes it for us. Another shakes his head. No. Silence is still our best weapon. Let the noise die down. A third voice cuts through the debate, calm, deliberate. You're both wrong. We've already lost control of the narrative. Only question is how. Deep we go. Outside, sirens wail. Protest chants echo through the streets inside. The war room fractures, and at the center of it, all silence, because Traoré hasn't spoken yet. A hashtag trends globally. Truth for Traoré memes, flood timelines, cartoons mock foreign interference. One image goes viral, Traoré standing alone, holding a megaphone shaped like Africa. Young voices rise across digital platforms. In Lagos, Nairobi, Cape Town activists live stream roundtable discussions, dissecting every leaked document, every intercepted message. A student leader in Accra posts a video. This isn't about one man. It's about all of us. About who really decides our future. Another uploads footage of protests spreading like wildfire. We are not waiting for permission. We are taking back our story. Hashtags multiply. Hashtag movements evolve into real-world organizing. Youth-led coalitions form outside traditional party lines. What began as a divorce petition is now a movement, and the old guard is starting to feel the ground shift. He surfaces in a dusty border town. No press credentials, no camera crew, just a laptop and a memory card filled with years of buried truth. Once celebrated, then silenced, the exiled journalist reemerges with a final act to play. His name appears in encrypted chats, whispered among activists. Then suddenly, a post drops, titled, "Who Really Put Him There?" The article names names, dates, meetings, payments, hidden agendas. It reveals that Traoré's rise was not organic but orchestrated, backed by a shadowy consortium of multinational firms, intelligence agencies, and political insiders. He was never meant to fail, the journalist writes, just to stay controlled. Then hours later, the post disappears. His social media vanishes. His location is scrubbed. He's gone again, but the damage is done, because now the world knows. This wasn't just corruption. It was design in a locked room. Two men face each other. One offers a USB drive. This contains everything. Names, transactions, conversations. Release this, you change the game forever. The other stares at it. And if I don't, the first doesn't blink. Then you become part of the lie. Silence lingers. Then a voice, low, steady. I didn't come here to destroy my country. I came to save it. Its drive remains untouched for now, but the weight of the decision fills the room, because once the truth is known, there is no going back. One by one, they disappear. First, the Minister of Finance resigns without explanation. Then, the National Security Advisor steps down, citing health reasons. A top economic advisor flees the country overnight. Some vanish quietly. Others leave cryptic messages. An aide finds a note slipped under a door. They'll come for me next. Security. Forces tighten their grip around government buildings. Rumors swirl. Some say the president is being isolated. Others whisper of secret negotiations underway. In boardrooms and embassies, conversations grow sharper. How far is he willing to go? Is he protecting himself or exposing everyone? Inside the regime, panic turns to paralysis. Because when the people closest to power start running, everyone knows the storm is coming. The screen flickers, static, then silence. No national anthem. No presidential seal. Just a single chair, a microphone, and a man alone in the dim glow of a studio light. He speaks into the void. I did not come to power to serve them. I came to lead us. His voice cracks. not with weakness, but with weight. This is not a speech. It is a reckoning. There are no teleprompters, no flags, no rehearsed lines. Only raw truth, delivered like a confession under candlelight, across continents. Phones buzz, screens flash. Millions watch, transfixed. Because this is not politics, this is exposure. A click echoes through the broadcast, then a voice clear. Unmistakable on a recorded call. We need assurances that he will sign. If not, we have other options. Leans forward. You know who you are? And now, so does everyone else. He names them. One by one, foreign advisors embedded in his administration. Diplomats who dictated policy from afar. Corporate executives who shaped trade agreements behind closed doors. Each name is followed by an email, a transcript, contract. Proof, not just of corruption, but of orchestration. A system built not to serve nations, but to control them. And tonight, it begins to crack. He pauses, looks directly into the lens. I was chosen, not because I was free, but because I could be guided. Another breath. I believed I could change things from within, that I could negotiate with those who had already decided the outcome. He doesn't ask for forgiveness, he asks for understanding. I made compromises. I signed agreements. I played their game because I thought it was the only way to survive. Silence fills the room. Then, but survival without sovereignty is just another form of death. Submission isn't weakness. It's weaponized honesty, and it changes everything. For the first time, his voice softens. She left me because she could no longer live under the weight of lies. And she was right. The camera holds on his face. I loved her. Still do. But she saw what I refused to admit, that I had become part of the machine I once swore to dismantle. Lets the silence stretch. Then, if I can betray her trust, how can I expect my people to trust me? That line cuts deeper than any accusation, because it reveals something more dangerous than scandal. It reveals vulnerability. And in the world of global politics, vulnerability is revolutionary. Within minutes, reaction begins. In Nairobi, students chant Traoré's name. In Lagos, youth groups organize teach-ins on neocolonialism. In Kinshasa, artists paint murals of him standing alone. Speaking truth. Hashtags evolve. From #Traoré candle to Traoré speaks. From condemnation to solidarity. A protest leader in Accra steps up to a microphone. We don't want apologies. We want transparency. We want accountability. We want leaders who speak like this. Across Africa, the movement shifts. No longer about one man now. It's about all of them. About every leader who has ever been pressured to choose between power and principle. And what happens when someone finally refuses? Then, gunfire. Automatic weapons crack through the night air near the presidential compound. Smoke rises. Sirens wail. Confusion spreads. Was it real? Staged? Or worse, a warning? Security forces scramble. Armored vehicles roll through the streets. Reports conflict. One official claims loyalists repelled the attack. Another says it was a false flag, orchestrated by the president himself, inside the palace. Panic reigns. Outside, speculation explodes. Did someone try to remove him? Or was this the beginning of something even darker? Because in the world of global power, sometimes the loudest shots aren't the ones that kill, they're the ones that silence. In Nairobi, ministers meet behind closed doors. In Pretoria, intelligence briefings are rewritten overnight. In Luanda, security forces increase patrols around government buildings. Across the continent, leaders brace for impact. They know what comes next. Leaks, protests, demands. The Traoré effect is no longer contained to West. Africa has become a virus infecting regimes built on silence. One president cancels a planned state visit to Europe. Another orders a sudden audit of foreign-funded infrastructure projects. A third issues a decree restricting press freedoms under the guise of national stability. Fear spreads like wildfire, because now every administration knows their turn could be next. In Brussels, a statement is released, measured, diplomatic, but unmistakably sharp. We remain deeply concerned by the recent developments in the region. Stability must be preserved at all costs. In Washington, Congress debates cutting aid. Behind closed doors, diplomats argue over containment strategies. This isn't reform, one official says. It's rebellion. It's contagious. Meanwhile, in Moscow and Beijing, quiet diplomacy unfolds. Russian envoys reach out through back channels. Chinese trade officials schedule emergency meetings with African counterparts. No public statements. No condemnation. Only opportunity. Because while the West scrambles to contain the fallout, others see a power vacuum forming, and they intend to fill it. A senator in Colombia resigns after secret correspondence with foreign consultants surfaces. Online in Jakarta, a leaked memo reveals a shadow advisory group embedded within the Ministry of Trade. In Brasilia, intercepted calls expose corporate influence over environmental policy decisions. Each scandal carries it's the same fingerprints. Backdoor deals. Foreign interference. Domestic complicity. And in each case, activists cite the same inspiration: Traoré, not as a hero, not as a savior, but as proof that the system can be exposed, that silence can be broken, that truth can spread like fire. She steps onto the stage in Addis Ababa, calm but resolute. No flags. No political slogans. It's just a woman with a microphone and a message. I did not file that petition to destroy my husband. I filed it to save our future. Gasps ripple through the crowd. Cameras flash. She continues, I walked away because I could no longer live in a world built on deception. But I returned not to mourn what was lost, come to fight for what can still be built. She calls for unity between governments, but between people, for transparency, for accountability, for justice. And when she finishes, the room erupts not in applause, but in action. Because this time, the movement has two voices leading it. Hers and his in Kampala, a young organizer launches a digital campaign demanding constitutional reforms. In Santiago, former student leader gains traction after publicly rejecting foreign funding in Manila. A grassroots coalition invokes Traoré's name during a protest against economic dependency. These are not revolutionaries. They are realists. They do not seek to overthrow systems. They seek to reclaim them, and across continents. Their message is clear. We will not be chosen. We will choose ourselves. Old parties scramble to respond. Some attempt cooption. Others crack down. But the momentum is undeniable, because the era of silent obedience is ending, and the age of vocal defiance has begun. In Langley, analysts adjust threat assessments. In Geneva, diplomats revise negotiation strategies. In Beijing, think tanks draft new policies on African engagement. Intelligence agencies recalibrate. They no longer ask, how do we control this? They ask, how do we survive it? Alliances shift unpredictably. Some nations retreat into isolation. Others pivot toward new partnerships. Old Cold War dynamics reemerge, but this time, the battleground is not ideology. It is influence. And the rules have changed. Because for the first time in decades, the global south is not reacting to the world order. It is reshaping it. Smoke still lingers in the air from the protests. But now something else rises: structure, in a hastily convened assembly. A new government takes shape, not born from revolution or coup, but from reckoning. Civil society leaders sit beside former Assid ministers. Youth activists share panels with retired generals. A university professor chairs an economic reform committee. This is not a takeover, it is a transfer. Power shifts not through force, but through consent. For the first time in decades, the people shaping policy are not just those who inherited it, they earned it. And as the first coalition agreement is signed, one line echoes across the chamber: we are not here to erase the past, we are here to reclaim the future. She stands before a panel of judges, journalists, and citizens, no longer a wife, no longer a symbol, but a leader in her own right. Mariam Diallo opens the first session of the Truth and Accountability Commission with a simple declaration: the truth will not be buried again. Over the next weeks, thousands of classified documents flood into public view. Names surface, deals unravel, crimes come to light. One file reveals a covert surveillance program targeting student unions. Another exposes secret negotiations with foreign corporations over mineral rights. Each revelation sparks outrage and action. Prosecutions begin, reforms follow. The machinery of power begins to shift, slowly, painfully, but unmistakably. Because this time, the truth isn't just exposed, it is enforced. In Beijing, African trade envoys sign infrastructure deals without hidden clauses. In Moscow, energy contracts are negotiated with transparency clauses once unthinkable. Even in Latin America and Southeast Asia, leaders watch closely, learning from what unfolded in West Africa. A new bloc forms, not defined by ideology, but by independence, no longer bound by old alliances forged in the shadows. African nations begin choosing partners on their own terms, not out of dependency, but out of design. And for the first time in generations, the continent speaks not in reaction but in strategy. He walks away, not exiled, not defeated, but deliberate. Amadou Traoré declines re-election, refuses offers to run again, rejects book deals, speaking tours, political comebacks. Instead, he returns to the classroom. At a small university in Bamako, he lectures on governance, history, and resistance. His students call him simply Professor. He writes essays that go viral, op-eds that spark debate. No speeches, no rallies, just ideas. His legacy is not his presidency. It is his willingness to walk away from it, and in doing so, he becomes something more dangerous than a leader. He becomes a lesson. From Khartoum to Jakarta, young voices rise. They don't carry flags of any one nation. They hold signs quoting Traoré's midnight broadcast. They chant Mariam's name in protest squares. In Santiago, youth-led referendum demands constitutional reform. In Manila, digital campaigns expose corporate influence in policymaking. In Nairobi, a coalition of artists, students, and workers launches a movement called Voice First. This is no longer about Africa. It is about autonomy, about sovereignty, not just of nations, but of narratives. And the fire lit in Dakar burns on at the United Nations. Something unusual happens. African leaders speak not in fragmented statements, not in competing interests, but as one. They demand reforms to global financial institutions. They reject unilateral sanctions. They propose a new model of development based on mutual respect, not conditional aid. Western diplomats listen. Chinese officials take notes. Russian observers nod because for the first time in decades, Africa does not wait to be heard. It commands attention. And as the final gavel falls at the assembly, one delegate whispers to another, they're not asking for permission anymore. The screen fades in from black. A single line of text appears slowly, as if being written in real time. I can no longer live under the weight of lies that have shaped my life. It was never meant to be a rallying cry. It was a woman's quiet declaration meant for court documents, not global headlines. But in that sentence, something cracked open. Not just a marriage, not just a presidency, a system. Because when truth is spoken not in defiance, but in exhaustion, it carries a weight that cannot be ignored. And the world heard it, even if it wasn't ready to understand it. They both paid the price. He lost power not by force, but by choice. She lost love not through betrayal, but through clarity. Amadou Traoré became a symbol, then a teacher. Mariam Diallo became a leader, then a reformer. Neither sought martyrdom, but both carried its burden. She walked away from a palace. He stepped down from a throne, and in doing so, they gave others permission to question, to challenge, to rise, because leadership isn't always about holding power. Sometimes, it's about knowing when to let go. Montage begins. Youth march across city squares. Banners flap in the wind. Voices echo through alleyways and boulevards. Africa must speak with one voice. No more puppet presidents. We are not your allies. We are your equals. In Lagos, students chant Mariam's name. In Jakarta, activists replay Traoré's midnight speech. In Santiago, protesters paint murals of him standing alone, microphone in hand. This is not nostalgia. This is momentum. History does not wait for permission. It waits for courage. And today, courage walks. Among us, this story was never just about Africa. It was about every nation, where leaders serve interests beyond their people. Every government where policy is shaped behind closed doors. Every citizen who has ever questioned who really holds the reins. Traoré's fall was not his end. It was a warning. Mariam's departure was not an escape. It was an awakening. And what followed was not chaos, it was consequence. Because when truth is unleashed, it doesn't stop at borders, it spreads. Like fire, final montage, smoke rises over protest lines. Flags wave, fists raise, cameras roll. From Nairobi to New Delhi, from Sao Paulo to Seoul, activists invoke the same names, share the same quotes, use the same language. We will not be chosen. We will choose ourselves, cross continents. Young voices rise in unison, not for war, not for revenge, but for self-determination. And somewhere, in a small university classroom, professor writes on the board, when the truth is no longer a weapon, it becomes a revolution. The camera lingers, then fades to black silence until one final line appears, and it all began with a divorce.